You've now entered the Noah Samson YouTube channel, which means you are now Noah Samson YouTube video maxing, which is when you watch my videos. Hi.
Try not to get scared.
My favorite subject in school was math, and my other favorite subject in school was Ho, which is why my favorite YouTube channel online that I found is called Ho Math. I haven't watched it yet, but I'm assuming it's my favorite because it combines the best of both worlds of my favorite things. I was never all that good at math, but Ho's, on the other hand, I was also not good at that either, so we're gonna try and learn something, a thing or two today. Now.
We might be stuck in a pattern of civilizational collapse, and it's because our relationships are not as strong as they used to be. This video is a long overdue answer to the question, why is promiscuity bad? The answer is kind of complicated.
Alright, sounds like this guy's got it figured out. Let's hear what he has to say.
Let's start with this. Why would promiscuous behavior, as pictured here, cause a collapse of civilization? I put together this map. It's originally created by Ken Wilber. This is just my easy-to-read version.
I'm glad he did that, because it is easy to read. How did Sir feels from the China? Yeah, I got it. Yeah, good. I can't lie, I like this guy's format. I like the narration and the pencil. And the drawings. I think it's fun. As far as the ideas themselves, you know, TBD.
Developmental psychology, how people's minds develop individually from birth until wherever you stop, and how that affects the development of society and culture. And over here, there's this little grid that shows the individual mind and culture, and individual behavior and society.
This chart seems cool. You know, it's some kind of like psychological, philosophical framework for the world. He's going to connect it to sucking and fucking, I'm assuming, and I'm excited for that.
Society, which we depend on for everything we have, is based on the way that we relate to each other, which is falling apart very quickly, due in large part to acceptance of promiscuous behavior. Here's a bunch of little heartbreaks and lower relationship strength.
Okay. Jumping around a bit there, you know, there's a city, and then we need everyone to be dating and good at dating and happy and married, and if not, city destroyed, city turned to poo-poo doo-doo. Is that how that works? I'm actually not sure. If everyone in the city is no longer married and they're all swiping away and doing all this stuff with holes, does the city just explode? Are there any other factors as to the stability of society? I don't know what dap 'em up means. If that's referring to dapping up like that, then I'm a slut because I love my friends.
If we remain unable to understand each other, we tend to do what we want instead of thinking about what's right.
What is, hold on. Senses see, hear, man bad. Project fear onto man. He's making me feel this. Control spirits. What can I do about this situation? Ladies, is this what happens when you see man bad on, I think that's supposed to be a phone. Is this what happens? I'm not that smart of a guy. I don't know all this philosophy shit. If someone could help me understand what's going on here, let me know.
When people are allowed to do whatever they want, it degrades us from this stable model of courtship and relationship formation to this unstable one.
Ah, there it is. The chart, the hypergamy chart. Back in the day, each boy got one girl, and now a few boys get many girl, and some boy get no girl. And this chart doesn't even track with like real world relationships. Statistically speaking, on average, most couples aren't that far apart in attractiveness. It's usually pretty similar. I think this is dating app thinking, because dating apps are a total meat fest. It's like 80% guys on some of them. That means most guys below a certain level of attractiveness are not going to get as many matches.
Most of the women get played and dumped over and over, and these guys get no attention.
Just by the numbers, you know. There's a few problems with that narrative on its own, but let's just assume that's what he's applying to this graph here. That's, you know, there's people are also off those apps, and most women are actually off those apps. If you're one of these 5 and under guys, which I think this content aims at you, it kind of grabs you by the neck and says, this is what they're doing to you. Dating apps suck shit if you don't ever get a match and so have to start paying and then still don't get a match. It's a bad cycle, and it's extremely exploitative, and the apps are keeping you there for a reason. For my fellow sub-fivers, go to the gym, smile more, you're just not hygiene. Go on TikTok, look at what the fashion people are doing, try and emulate that. Don't go crazy, you know, don't go from Captain American t-shirt to the Met Gala. There's gonna be a learning curve there. Mew, of course, find a chew toy. Find something you like doing, get really good at it. Lastly, and most importantly, build community. If you have people around you that'll help you out, that'll teach you things that you'll learn from, that you can support and provide friendship for, and even making friends with girls, and then you meet a mutual friend and it's a cute person that likes you back, and then boom, you're off to the races.
And that makes everyone unhappy, and it also is really bad for stable marriages that produce children. And this model is only possible when people believe I can do whatever I want and you can't judge me.
She just wants to go for Chad. All she wants is suck and fuck. Chad and ride on the cock carousel. I'm getting mogged right now. I feel like this is a very oversimplified way of looking at relationships, especially the term stability. You know, what does that mean? Stability for whom? Like, just being married isn't necessarily a sign of stability. You can be married and have a shit marriage and be really unhappy and your kids right up even though you're still together. There's also one other slightly tiny factor, which is back when this model was the number one, as in, you know, certain laws made it so that you had to kind of stick with that shit. Divorce laws, women can't work, relying on the husband for the income. Times were a little different back then. Back then you could get a penny from the corner store and go on and put a down payment on a house. But those days are no more. Now all they do is eat hot chip and lie in a studio apartment. $10,000 a week. Shit is expensive. One source of income, not gonna really cut it. Now that women be working and shit, there becomes less of a stability in a marriage that is necessitated on an exchange of resources because it's not enough, and now people got options to make their shit, make it so that they have enough.
Modern people believe that the world is made of individuals. It is actually made of relationships. In the same way that a pile of bricks is not a building. In order for the building to work, the bricks have to be arranged in a certain way, they have to be connected, and once the bricks start saying, I don't want to be part of a building anymore, I want to do me, then the building starts decaying, and then the other bricks say, well, if you're not doing your job, then I won't do my job. And we go from a building to a pile.
I get the metaphor, right? Real simple. Bricks, building. No bricks, no building. Is every person that's ever worked a job and contributed to society been dating a sexy hot wife or hubby? No. It's a crazy leap. You know, I don't know how else to put it. Maybe he'll get more specific as we go, but...
A big part of this decay is the sexual revolution, which is actually just a decay. It's reverse development. We are going from higher levels down to lower ones. This is not moving beyond the rules, it's just getting rid of them.
We used to be a country. And then everybody started showing their ass on TikTok. Is this person at a concert? There's people in the crowd. Those look like stage lights. Is it a strip club? I get their doodles. I like the doodles. I think they're fun. I don't know what the fuck is going on in this picture other than the lady with the red flag and her ass out.
All cultures have to grow through these levels. You can't skip stages. And when a culture develops from this low impulsive stage to the rules and roles stage, they come up with strict social norms, and they eventually grow to the achiever stage, which is like corporate, keeping up with the Joneses, and eventually into this sensitive, individualistic hippie stage where people start saying, hey man, everyone's like unique and we should all do what we want, bro.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and try and decode this entire thing. He's laying it out really thoroughly, but connecting it to promiscuity? I don't know, man. It just feels very sensationalist, and like the girls having sex is just being shoehorned into this. We're only identifying one variable here.
We have known this for a long time. Back in the 12th century, some guy named Salahuddin Ayyubi, liberator of Jerusalem, that's probably debatable, but he sounds important. He said, if you want to destroy any nation without war, make adultery or nudity common in the young generation. Sound familiar?
I knew this quote was coming, man. I knew this quote was coming. This is what they pull out. They pull this one out every time some OnlyFans girl goes viral for doing a silly clip. Oh, see, this is what they were talking about, man. This is what they said, and now the shit's gonna burn down very soon. Ayyubi shouldn't have put it past us that we'd still destroy society with war, because that's, you know, who knows what's gonna happen. Could be nukes from Russia, it could be a puppy cosplay kink on your Instagram Reels timeline. Either of these things will do it. We just have to wait and find out.
I just spoke to Rudyard Lynch of What If Alt Hist about this. Check out his channel. And he explained to me that history does not work like this. It's not, feminism was invented yesterday and now everyone's going to be happy forever.
That is what feminists have always said, is that feminism will be everyone's happy, and then that's it. Feminists have famously been saying that. Bell Hooks, infinite feminism equals infinite happiness. Look it up. There's a narrative here that all feminists are telling everyone to just go suck regardless of the consequences, but that's Very much not the case. There's a lot of different feminists and a lot of different feminist schools of thought, and many have been critical of sex positivity for a long time in a variety of ways. We just recently saw the Bumble ad campaign. In an attempt to get more women on the app, they said, hey, quit being a damn prude, all right? Celibacy isn't the answer. There's quite a bit of feminist backlash for something like that, because that's bad, you know? Horseshoe theorying sex positivity back into pressure, cultural stigma around your own choice to abstain from sex. Alice Capel did a great video on that. You should watch that. Recently read an essay from Farha Khalidi, Confessions of a Femcel, Why I'm a 24-Year-Old Female Virgin. It's a great article, and it's one of many critiques of the idea that everything about hookup culture is great and empowering and it's all good, which is the characterization Homath is applying to feminists and the sexual revolution. And it's a reduction. It's not actually true. Another example of this is the 4B movement happening in South Korea. Maybe you've heard about this. Just watch a great video from a friend of the show, Elliot Sang, about this. You might have missed that conversation, and if you did, I'd like to talk about today's sponsor, which can help with that, which is Ground News. On Ground News, when I look up a story about the 4B movement, you get a quick summary of the story and can see that Korean women are boycotting heterosexual relationships due to misogyny, intimate violence, and non-consensual porn. So not just because they want to go find Chad and diddle his dungus. This is based on just 29 articles Ground News found reporting on it. So unless you're intentionally diversifying how you stay up to date with the news, there are lots of ways you can miss important stories like this. I can even compare coverage to see that the government of Singapore mentions this movement and how it's contributing to South Korea's falling birth rate, while this article coming out of India highlights smashing the patriarchy and the largest gender pay gap in the developed world. Homath and I are coming at these stories from very different perspectives, which means we bring our own biases and audience perceptions. So I'm happy to be working with Ground News again on this video. Their app and website go out of their way to provide all sides of every story, which makes them a great sponsor for me. I also really like their blind spot feed. It gives you a breakdown of stories that are receiving little to no coverage from either side of the political spectrum. This feature helps keep your perspective broad and avoid getting too far into a political echo chamber. Check it out at ground.news/Noah. Subscribe through my link for 40% off unlimited access, or scan this QR code. They're subscriber funded and ad free, which is awesome. Ads require clicks, which make it do sensational journalism. Ground News doesn't have that issue. And subscribing with my link helps to support the channel.
There really are a lot of fluctuations between feminine and masculine control of society, and if you get too far in either direction, things get bad. And the Islamic world went too far in this direction and had an overcorrection, and now they are still hanging out up here. Some of this even happened recently. This was Iran in the 70s, and so was this. They look like they're from Wisconsin. That was before the Iranian Revolution. And let's not forget Afghanistan, then and now.
Wait, okay, so Iran was under feminine control because of the restrictions loosened on dress. Feminine control. The matriarchy was installed. Wasn't there other shit going on in Iran aside from that? Yeah, it looks like there was other stuff going on. Not necessarily the most historically accurate way to describe that.
This lie that the more feminist things get, the happier everyone's gonna be, it just is not real life.
As far as I understand it, feminism was never about happy maxing. It was about choice maxing. It was about agency maxing, and in being granted the ability to make choices over things like voting and choosing who you date, not having an arranged marriage, not being sold off or whatever, which still happens. But when it became legal to like divorce, or when marital rape became illegal, I'm sure that made some people unhappy. Marital rapists, things like that. Probably not overjoyed to be imprisoned for doing a heinous crime that you thought it was okay to do and that the law said it was okay to do. But that's just sort of a consequence of the world changing, you know?
Hyper-feminization causes its own problems, and the reaction might not be fun.
This is some real sinister shit right here. You see that? He's threw in the clip of the Not People ghost paper being put over the Sub 5 guys. He's calling on them right now. He's saying, this is what they took from you. Your bride, your wife. You could have had it if they just didn't do what they want, which is to choose other people. And there's only a few ways to get it back, and certain areas of the world have done it successfully.
What are these problems caused by glorious feminist freedom? Well, as women become liberated from men, which means getting materials that men produce without having to marry them.
Okay, what are you talking about? Dude, I love this fucking guy. I love Homath. If you're watching, you're my favorite YouTube channel. I'm subscribed. I'll join the Patreon. What the fuck is going on? Women be shopping, men be working, carrying the tax burden. What is this referencing, like divorce court law and like alimony and things? Why is the money going into the corporation and being given to her with there's no tax burden? Are you saying women don't pay taxes? What the fuck does this mean? The IRS did just start a new tax bracket. It's girl taxes and boy taxes. And boy taxes makes you look like this, and girl taxes make you look like this.
Women experience a greater ability to choose, and they no longer have to settle for someone who is exactly on her level. Women become more free to pursue somebody who might have a full dance card and might not be interested in anything long term.
I gotta circle back to this idea about what do you want to do about it? Women can choose now, and they're choosing, according to you, these guys that are breaking their heart over and over, these chads, and then they're getting sad, and then they're never dating. So what do you do? Restrict the choice? Say, well, I know better, actually, I know what will make you happy, and that's dating me. You're taking a shower without me? You're settling down without me?
This matches the results we get from dating apps. Women seem not to be very interested in most men, at least not until women get to know those men. This more equitable style of pairing off is what happens in tight-knit communities. But those tight-knit communities come from living at this level.
What if the tight-knit community says that what's right is sucking and fucking? I'm familiar with some communities like that, and when you say equitable pairing, it means a very different thing to that group of people. It means that this image isn't just a chart, it's what it looks like when all 20 of them get together in a room and start spraying bust at each other. This statistic, it gets floated around in the manosphere a lot, but it's not really telling the full story. While the ways that genders rate each other in terms of attractiveness are different, men keep it a buck, women be lying and shopping. The discrepancy is sort of counterbalanced by the fact that women are more likely to swipe on and match with men that they believe are lower in attractiveness. Substantially less than men are. Women are willing to give that guy a chance.
Women get more swipes, matches, and messages on dating apps, despite the fact that men are more likely to use paid versions of the apps. Here are 3 factors to consider. First, there are just more men than women on the apps. In some of the data I've seen, it's like a 2-to-1 ratio. Even if men and women were equally picky, women would get more attention. In musical chairs, there are more sitters than seats, and so of course, the seats get more matches. Second, men and women are not equally picky. Humans are mammals, and male mammals, in most genera, are typically less selective about who they mate with compared to female mammals, because the risk-to-reward ratio is lower for males than females, who, if they make a bad choice, are pregnant with that bad choice. Men are mostly, in this way, normal, boring male mammals, less choosy than their female counterparts. Third, and finally, dating apps are mostly about swiping photos, right? They're mostly about physical attractiveness. And across research, including accidentally in my own data, men generally rate women as more physically attractive than women rate men. Part of this is probably due to that last fact, right? Less risk, more reward. But part of this is just that women put more effort into their physical appearance. So women are more selective to begin with, the apps are mostly dudes, and the game is mostly about looks, and women look better.
How much does that make up for the discrepancy? I'm not entirely sure, but leaving that out completely, you're putting your foot on the scale a little bit, I think.
People no longer form or remain in these stable and equitable relationships because there's no social or cultural pressure to do so. It takes a village. They just go, I'm not happy, because everyone's going to be not happy at some point in a relationship, and you need something to keep you together. Without that, people just bail out into this mess.
Where does this idea come from that nobody would have an issue with someone just leaving their partner for like no reason? You know, where does that come from? I'm a blue pill enjoyer, okay, but I still think that's wrong and fucked up, and I'm sure probably most of my blue pill viewers would say similarly, but that's different from saying that there should be cultural enforcements around the ability for someone to leave their partner.
Men who are very high in demand will often sleep with women who are not very high in demand, and it just doesn't work the other way around. Like, Taylor Swift is not out here picking up guys who work at McDonald's.
You never know, though, do you? You know, I used to go to McDonald's, and when I'd go, I saw some Travis Kelce looking motherfuckers working the fryers. Anything's possible. There's one truth here, which is that men are more willing to go down on the looks rating in terms of for casual sex and hookups. That's another cheeky foot on the scale moment there, is that the guy who works at McDonald's, that's meant as a, oh, you're lower on the status tail. But what if he's sexy as fuck? Like Travis Kelce. That's why I made that joke, because Travis Kelce's a handsome guy. Travis, you're watching this? I think you're a handsome guy. But that's where the idea of hypergamy, girls are always trying to go higher up, kind of falls apart, because working at McDonald's is down on the ladder, But there's other directions you could go, and attractiveness is one of them.
So promiscuity is bad because it means do what I want. And doing what you want means that nobody has any say over whether or not you stay in your marriage but you. So as soon as it feels bad, you're going to leave and you're going to jump into this disaster where you're going to go look for the best you can get, and you're going to convince yourself that this guy almost married you even though he would never be seen with you in public. And then you're going to get your heart broken so many times that you're just going to start hating men, and you're going to go, all men are the same, all men, even though you're only talking about these men. And these men down here are so completely detached from society and hopeless that they don't have any reason to contribute to society at all. And then everything falls apart because nobody is building.
That last one was... That was a perfect little run, minute-long run of kind of sums up the video. I feel like these are the ones where it's hard to know if I even need to like go into like debunking or if it's self-evidently that this is just kind of weird stuff. The real-world example that you could point towards here that connects with what's being said is that because the trend of young men being single and sexless is rising, and because men generally function better while in stable relationships, and because that situation is associated with less connection with society, NEET, non-employment, and or in training, like that's all true stuff that is happening. It's just, again, back to the question of what do we do about it? What are you going to do about it? I'm more of the school of thought of get in the gym, be a positive force on the world, don't think too much about sex and relationships, or when you're struggling with it, that's a recipe for disappointment constantly. Focus on yourself, kings. But based on the philosophy being sort of etched out here, the answer is to return to tradition.
It's not controversial to say that promiscuity is increasing. What is controversial is how much and why it matters. But all the bad things you would expect to see are there. The birth rate is dismal. People are getting married later than ever. Rudyard told me that once that number reaches 28, it's bad news. So we might be stuck.
So far as two history sources are this guy who said something and this other guy who said something. Not only did he say something, he said it was bad news. Compelling case. He's making a compelling case. He's right, it isn't controversial to say that promiscuity is increasing. The first question, though, isn't why that's bad. In order to postulate on the relative badness or goodness, it needs to be a controlled experiment. The shit he's talking about, there's so many fucking variables too, right? This is just classic correlation equals causation.
The increase in single motherhood is not good for children. We've known that for a long time. And psychiatric medication rates are spiking amid ongoing uncertainty. Again, I'm pretty certain that it is the breakdown of society.
That little foot, Hellmouth, you love putting it on the scale, man. The psychiatric medication spike, look at the date range. Weeks of the year of 2020. What could be happening during the weeks of the year of 2020? Anything? Everyone was having a lot of sex, right? Everyone was sucking and fucking. Yeah, I remember that. Classic case of that. All right, so I've been begging for a solution for this whole video, and it appears we may have stumbled upon it at the end. Let's listen.
So what is the solution? Well, we have to get away from this model where people do what feels good in the moment and back to this model where people make decisions that are good for them and the long term and good for their communities. It's me, me, me. That's what's killing us. Now, on the other hand, China has actually increased its marriage rate for the first time in 9 years. How did they manage that? Well, the government has been campaigning to promote marriage. What does that look like? Well, I'm not sure, but I know what it doesn't look like.
It's perfect, man. It's perfect. Nothing can be advocated for on the internet without it having to be in contrast with a TikTok of someone saying some dumb shit. Me ignoring every guy because I'm loyal to my ex. That's just someone saying something crazy. The destruction of society is, it's a pretty serious problem, I would say. So you'd think solutions would be high on the priority list, but not for Hellmouth here. And that's okay, right? If you want to outline the problem and just see where people take it, that's fine. But that's my question, is where do you take it? If you want to promote marriage, start a fucking marriage promotion YouTube channel. Vote in people that you think will promote trad values. Also, just a little caveat, but that statistic about marriage rates in China is actually a little more complicated than he's making out to seem. What goes unmentioned here is the myriad of other factors that likely influenced this uptick, namely lifts in pandemic-related restrictions, Chinese cultural influences regarding abstinence from marriage during certain years, 2022, the year before the uptick, being one of them. The uptick has been described as an overdraft on this year's years marriages. The article Homath provides is somewhat unclear about exactly when and how this marriage promotion campaign was undertaken, but elsewhere it has been noted that actual material incentives were implemented by the government. Things like improved childcare systems and parental leave policies. Xi Jinping didn't get up on the podium and say, "No more one-night stands, you little perverts." It was other stuff. Also, divorces went up, which sort of goes without saying. That's just more evidence that quantity over quality is important. Not every marriage is perfect.
I have referred to this phenomenon of women going after guys who won't commit as being stuck on her highest setting. It's also called being an alpha widow. It's when she remembers one guy forever who no one else can ever measure up to, and she dreams of being with him even though he's not coming back. Cultivating that attitude is central to this collapse.
Alpha widow? Oh, fuck. I love you. I love you. That's just someone not being over their ex, which is just a thing people do. Straight up. That's a thing people do. I think this content can be very easily identified with by a lot of people because he's describing an insecurity, something that people are insecure about, being compared to former partners, of not adding up, and of potentially being left for an ex. That's fucked up. Doubly fucked up if that's happened to you, which if you read through the comments, it seems like it's happened to, some of the people in the comments, which makes sense why that message would resonate with them. However, that's not something you overcome emotionally with Homath. No offense to Homath. You don't fix that with content. You fix that with communication in real life, ideally friends and family. If you can make it happen, a therapist would be good to unpack some of that shit. It's one thing to see your girl texting her ex and be like, wait, what's up? To have some skepticism about that. It's another thing entirely to obsess over the idea that she's thinking about him all the time, 24/7, for no reason, with no evidence. That, I think, is one potential tangible harmful effect of just these types of videos. Resentment, charging it up, and compounding insecurity, which, again, insecurity, from my perspective, I think from a lot of people's perspective, isn't the sexiest thing. Jealousy is a pretty normal thing in relationships, but unkempt, limitless jealousy that turns into like full insecurity, not sexy. And if you're worried about getting cheated on, being less sexy and being obsessive and untrusting for no reason, I don't feel like that's not going to help your chances of not getting cheated on,
Well, I'm going to finish my point with just a few examples of what this does to the minds of Western women. Yes, even grandma. These are all just TikToks that I collected over time. They were all very popular. This is what women are saying to each other.
Yes. Here we are. These TikToks say a lot about society. It's just anecdotes, It's just some anecdotes. Don't take it with a grain of salt, except they did have millions of views. So statistically, that doesn't mean shit, man. That's the whole point of it being anecdotes and not statistics. It doesn't matter how big unless the number is like 3 billion. I actually don't know what the number would need to be. That's not how stats work. He knows that's not how stats work. That's why he threw the caveat in there. But it's a meaningless caveat because he's still using the stats to back up a video whose central narrative is women be shopping and cheating and we gotta return.
Here we go. Celebrity crush. She says, all that work and what did it get me? Because she pulled her celebrity crush and doesn't like regular people anymore. So she pulled her celebrity crush, but could not keep him because she's not at his level. And now that is her new highest setting. He's all she can think about, and normal guys don't do it anymore.
Yeah, if I was getting to know someone and I saw that TikTok on their page, red flag for sure. I'm peacing out at that point. Corollary example here. A man has a first love ex who he loved very much and was the most attractive person he'd ever dated. Who's going to compare to that? Who knows? But that's a thing that happens with men. It being a celeb is a very specific thing, which that's probably a percentile of actual people, but same general concept. Someone that should not be going back out and dating who does, and then does weird shit like that.
Here's another. She's singing Gotta Whisper 'Cause I Can't Be Too Loud. She says this even though she posted it to the internet. She knows she's gonna drunk call the guy she really wants at her bachelorette party. I made this video a while back about a guy who proposed to a girl twice, and she said no twice, but she still wanted to be with him. And he got frustrated and said, what is she waiting for? And the answer was probably another guy who she wanted to come back and replace this one, even though he was never gonna do that.
I love the Chad drawing. That is the penultimate sexy guy. I'm not going to criticize your doodling. I really like the format. You got to draw a better sexy guy because that guy looks like Roblox Jeremy Fragrance.
And she already knows this is her in 10 years at her bachelorette party.
That's like a really fucked up type of person. Unanimous. There's no one that looks at that and says, yes, Yes, girl, go do that shit. Doesn't matter how many likes that TikTok has, it's an echo chamber of social media that's people being insane freaks, which you can find for any time. Let's look up some shit right now. Yeah, here's a video with 2.5 million views that says, when someone shows interest in me, but I only want my ex. That's a guy not being over his ex to the point that it affects his dating. Not as heinous as leaving at the altar, that's like the fucking worst thing you could do, but it's the same thing about a guy being not over his ex. Me, because I'ma still go back to my ex no matter what they do. That's a guy not over his ex. It's always my favorite ex over anybody. That's another guy not over his ex. I ain't never letting go. These videos all have a lot of views, millions. But no, alpha widows, that's the only type of thing, and it's reinforced by this evidence that I have of a TikToker saying some fucked up shit.
Here's a girl who has to say goodbye to her type because she wants to be treated like a princess. So in order to get out of this area and into this area, she knows she has to settle for less.
Oh my god, what is this chart? Holy shit. Oh yeah, I remember this. This is a chart he made for attractiveness stages. I like these, man. I think they're really fun. Keeper, sleeper, sweeper. The girls one has different stuff of ratings of Prince Charming down to situationship, down to mid to bad.
Here's another marriage one. She's planning to leave a man at the altar if her old buddy comes back.
A lot of times these things are posted sort of with pride, right? But a lot of times it's like, it's a self-evidently fucked up thing, and I'm admitting to it because it's like self-deprecating almost. It's like, I'm pathetic. I'm a piece of shit. I don't know if that's how this person meant it, but I see that shit all the time. Everyone in the comments like, literally me, and I hate myself for it.
This one's harsh. Something she's not ashamed of is, she will always choose her ex-situationship over anyone that thinks they have me. That is brutal. She would drive 2 hours to see him and can't commit to a good guy because of him. You should be ashamed of that.
Imagine getting this upset over a clearly inflammatory TikTok that has 1,000 comments. You already know whatever he said here, whatever he yelled about how she should be ashamed, was yelled at her 1,000 times, because that's a fucked up thing to say. Like, anyone that goes to date this person and sees that post is fucking out of there. I feel like that's like so wild, you know?
Let's speed this up. On my way to engagement party, thinking of my ex, running back to a man who hurt her before. Ha 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 ha, wee! How could the known player have played me too? I'm so shocked. Forcing herself to go out with a good guy while waiting for the toxic one.
Oh, wow. I'm learning so much here about society. Anytime someone brings up TikToks to tell you something about society, that person is not, no offense, that's not a very smart point to make. I know why he's doing it though. It's because he has these TikToks built up and he needs to really hit home for the guys that are insecure, that are bought into the previous notion of society. It worked. This will work. It's clever rhetorically. It's just so fucking stupid.
And in case you're hoping they grow out of it, just read that. And in case you're gonna say not all women are like that, I love my guesses and feelings. May I refer you to the movie Titanic?
No fucking way. In case you're worried about my lack of statistical data here, consult a movie.
If you haven't seen Titanic, here's a timeline. It's about an old lady on her deathbed who had a long, full life with kids, grandkids, marriage, all the stuff. And all that she can talk about is the one time that a homeless guy f***ed her on a boat. Box office smash. Do you see this blue line? That's Titanic. It beat Avatar, it beat Jurassic World. I don't know why that's there. But you see how these lines kind of die out and this one keeps going? That's how much women love the guy who is never coming back. They prefer him to the guy who proposed twice.
That is why that movie is so popular. Every woman I know walked out of that theater saying, I want to fuck a homeless guy on a boat. I want to resent my man for the rest of my life because I fucked a homeless guy on a boat, and he was young Leonardo DiCaprio. Was he the one she fucked on a boat? I don't remember. I don't remember the movie. I should actually go back and watch it, because this is an important point to be able to debunk, because it is statistically relevant how many people watch Titanic. It really says a lot about society.
That is what happens when you let people do what they want instead of making them do what is right.
We're letting people do what they want, and we need to make them do what is right. Make them, as in you don't get a choice. See, I just can't get on board with that, man.
Prioritizing your selfish lower urges, what do I want, causes social decay. It's as simple as that.
I mean, yeah, if everyone's doing just what they want without thinking about anyone else, that's inherently social decay. The video starts with, society's done, man. Everything's gonna crash and burn. But in order to back up that humongous claim that promiscuity is gonna be the thing that causes that social decay to the point of society collapsing, Very different. Very different. I say go for it. Try it. Try your best. In this video, that does not happen at all. Look, I don't know, man. This video tired me out. I sometimes have trouble telling when I need to talk about shit or when I need to laugh at shit. And if my brain's turned off, I can't do anything but laugh at the shit. Not the guys that may be being compelled by this, because I feel for you. If you've been cheated on, if you've wanted a date and you just can't get a single match and are being rejected constantly and are being told you're ugly by society. And I just hope to point out that this seems like a kind of a silly extremist way to react to that. And there are some tangible steps you can take to alleviate the situation that don't involve slut shaming, reverting society back to something where everyone has to be virgin. Obsession over body count, I think, stems a lot from insecurity about sexual performance. I think guys want to be good in bed, and if there's a lot of former sexual partners comparatively to other people, there's more of a likelihood that you're not the best sex you've ever had with your partner. Two things there. While you're having sex with your partner, think about having sex with them, not having sex with them and all their former previous partners. That sounds like a stressful thing. And two, get good. Anytime someone's presenting you with TikToks of women saying crazy shit, there's an agenda there. They're trying to prove a point and they're tricking you to do it. You're better than that. Don't get tricked by these guys. Okay, ending this video now. See ya later. Enjoy. Hi, bye.